I posted our sex tape to mock his size in a group chat. He printed the chat and pinned it at work. Hello, Reddits. My name is Emma and I'm 25 years old. I'm in big trouble, guys, and I really don't know what to do about this anymore. I have ended up ruining my own life with my own hands, and honestly, I'm at sea and so confused as to what to do. My fiancé, whom we're supposed to be getting married to in a week's time, has called things off with me, and not only that, had gone ahead to do something really awful too. It's all my fault, and I take all the blame, but I really don't want to lose Luke. Not after everything we've been through together. I did something really upsetting, but I swear that I never knew that he would find out about it, and it was just a joke between my friends and I. I didn't know that Luke had seen it, and then he had gone ahead to do something very awful about it, not only ruining our relationship, but also my life in the process. I posted our sex tape just to mock his size in a group chat with my friends, and that hadn't been the only thing we joked about. I compared his size with that of Mike's, my lover, and Luke had seen the chat. He had gone ahead to print the chat, and he pinned it at work, and the problem is, we work together in the same company, and I was his boss. I used past tense because there's a high probability of me being fired very soon, and the board members are still discussing what to do with me right now. I didn't know it would come to that, and I never knew that Luke would find out about it. My friends who had been my biggest supporters now all suddenly stopped talking to me, making up different excuses until they had finally revealed their true selves. Bella and Rose were my best friends from college, and we became dorm roommates, and since we studied the same course, we became best of friends easily. We hung out everywhere together, and when we finally graduated, we lived together and even applied to the same company for work. We all got accepted, and that was how we all became work besties again. We'd get home and trash every rude boss and discuss how work went in our various points of views. I got promoted quickly and thrice within the space of working with the company for 2 years, and Bella and Rose only got 1 promotion, and so they reported directly to me. I took a lot of blame on their behalf. Most times I ignored their mistakes, correcting them myself or giving someone else the job to do discreetly so they wouldn't find out and get mad. Eventually I moved out of the house the 3 of us stayed in. I wanted my own space, and I should have known then how wicked and jealous of me they were, but they were the only friends I had. Growing up, being compared with my siblings who were much brighter and beautiful than I was, made me an ugly nerd with no friends, and meeting them was like a gift from heaven, so I clung to our friendship. It was at work I got to meet Luke, and he was employed to work with me directly for a particular project. He was apparently scouted from another company because of how smart he is. I realized that after having to work with him for just a week, and it was really easy to fall in love with Luke with his easy smiles and thoughtful actions. He would bring me coffee in the morning while we worked and force me out for lunch during lunch break, and he even drops me off at my place whenever I don't bring my car to work, and we have to work late. With him, I never ran out of things to say, and it was amazing. We started dating a month after working closely together, and it was really amazing. I didn't tell my friends at first because I was afraid they would insult Luke and tell me I was far above his league, so I kept things a secret between Luke and I for 2 whole months. One day my friends had decided to come visit and had seen Luke leaving my place, but not before kissing me goodbye. I finally told them the truth, and as expected, that had been their response, so I lied to them that I was only with him because of sex, not because I was in love with him, and they easily accepted my lie. So each time Luke came up in our conversations, I dismissed him as just someone who I was simply just having sex with, but that wasn't true. I love Luke, and he's my first real relationship, and I was really attached to him, but I didn't want my friends looking down on me like everyone else had done while I was growing up. I wanted some form of respect from them, and the only way to get it was to pretend I was sleeping with Luke for just the sexual benefits alone. Luke, however, didn't know this. He was serious about me, and he had even shown me to his parents 3 months into our relationship to show just how committed he was to me. I felt guilty painting our whole relationship as something unserious to my friends, but I felt I had no choice but to do so. Luke and I were together for 2 years before he proposed, and although the first year I was fully committed to him and I really did love him, the second year wasn't the same thing. I mean, halfway through it. My friends kept pressuring me to end things with Luke and find someone else if I truly wasn't in love with him like I proclaimed, and I kept coming up with different excuses why I didn't want to end things between us. But then, I met Mike. Through Bella. He's apparently Bella's older brother who had been out of town for more than 11 years and only just came back. I had gone over to visit them that day as I usually did on weekends, when we didn't have to work and when Luke had other things to do. But I met Mike that day and he was sitting in my favorite chair and was watching a movie. He was wearing no shirt and just a very tight boxer that I'm sure his testis would be begging to be free from. It was the first time I was seeing another guy's body, apart from Luke's and the ones we watched on TV. And I didn't know what to make of the memory particularly, because even after leaving their place that day, the memory refused to leave my head. I even had a sexual dream about him that night, and I was really confused. I didn't know what to make of it, and I had told only Rose about it because I was feeling too hesitant to discuss that I found Bella's brother sexually attractive with her. Rose was excited about it and had told me to go ahead and just sleep with Mike instead of being confused and find out just how good he is in bed. I didn't take her advice immediately. Believe me, I tried to resist. But the more I kept seeing Mike, who suddenly always seemed to be the only one at home whenever I visited the girls, it was more difficult to resist. And the day when everything had finally started had come when Mike had purposely invited me to watch a movie with him. He blackmailed me into doing it, though saying I was always running when I saw him. So I decided to just watch the movie and go home right after. It was just a harmless movie, right? Well, it wasn't harmless, not at all. It had too many sexual scenes in it, more than was necessary, and halfway through the movie, I was really horny, and Mike must have known that because he moved closer to me and put his hand inside my skirt. I said nothing, too horny to do anything at that point, and when he got no resistance from me, he proceeded to kiss me properly on my mouth, and then right there on that sofa with that movie playing in the background, its loud sound drowning out my loud moans, we had sex. We had sex, and it was almost like I had never had sex before. Mike was really huge down there, and for the whole day the next day, I was practically limping because of how sore I was, but it felt good. It was like an eye-opener, and I told Rose and Bella nothing about what had happened between Mike and I at first. But they eventually forced me to spill the details, and apparently they set up the whole thing with Mike so I could get over Luke as soon as possible. I felt guilty seeing Luke at work the next day, though, because I had just cheated on him, but with my friend's encouragement, I didn't stop at a one-time thing with Mike. I started meeting him often, even inviting him over to my place just so we could have sex. Nothing else was good between us, and he was the direct opposite of Luke. He preferred to lounge around and do nothing all day but having sex. That was the only thing he was willing to use up all his energy on. He also shared very different opinions on matters, and he did so with a lot of aggression most times, and I had to give up on arguing with him. He also preferred some dirty stuff while having sex, although I was never against it at the beginning, willing to learn new things, but eventually it became too much, particularly when Luke noticed the red stripes caused by Mike's belt. I lied to Luke that I sat on a bench that was outside for too long and hadn't worn something thick too. I stopped Mike from using whips with me, and eventually, after several arguments, we were able to compromise into using hands, but not as hard. Mike and I kept sleeping around for over 2 months, and I was enjoying it, even though I know I shouldn't. Well, the sexual benefits that came with him, that is. Luke couldn't satisfy me anymore, not after the first time I had slept with Mike, or the numerous times afterwards. I tried so hard to stop, weighed down by guilt any time I was with Luke. But it was so hard because of how sexually unsatisfied I became with Luke. He didn't last as much as Mike did, and he also had a small size compared to Mike. I didn't mean to compare at first, but eventually it became difficult not to, and I found myself on chats with my friends after sleeping with Luke and remaining horny talking about his small size. They would laugh and then encourage me to end things with him, but I love Luke, and I knew that wasn't an option. I wanted to find a permanent solution to our sex life, especially after Luke had proposed to me on my birthday. It really was memorable for me, and I remember every tiny detail of that day. When Luke had invited my family and his, and all of our friends too, including Bella and Rose, he had gone down on his knees right in that restaurant and said those beautiful words and made those beautiful promises. I remember crying so hard before accepting the ring, and Bella and Rose said nothing, just smiled their fake congratulations. I knew I had to make it up to them somehow for lying to them that my relationship with Luke was just because of the sexual benefits. I bought them the massage chair they've been wanting for months, and I had to make installmental payments. but I didn't mind because I saw how happy they were with it, and that had seemed to shake their mind off the fact that I lied to them. Luke wanted us to get married quickly, and everyone, even at work, already found out about our engagement, and they all envied me, especially the ladies. Luke was quite eye-catching, you see, but I was stalling for time, so I pushed it by 1 month. Not because I didn't want to marry Luke, but because I wanted to end my relationship with Mike properly, by enjoying all the sexual pleasure I was getting from him within that month before ending things with him. I didn't want to get married and continue cheating. My friends had advised me otherwise, but I was quite adamant about my decision. I wanted to be a faithful wife to Luke, even though I wasn't faithful in the relationship. But the 1 month was near its end, and I still wasn't over Mike. I decided that I would start giving him space until I was sure that I could cope with Luke's way of having sex. But the more I stayed away, the longest being 2 days, I was going crazy from feeling rather horny. Having sex with Luke only did nothing but increase my appetite for more sex, and there was no way I could survive without having good sex, and I was so skeptical about our marriage. Finally, I came to a viable conclusion. I thought I would pay Mike for sex after my marriage, and knowing how greedy he was, particularly being paid for having sex, he agreed immediately. I felt it was the perfect solution to my problem, and that was the only way I would survive my sudden hormonal changes, especially when I kept getting really horny, and when I kept complaining to my friends about how frustrating sex was with Luke. They had been curious, and had asked me to record us having sex. I was appalled at the idea at first, but eventually agreed to do it because I felt they didn't understand exactly what I was going through, and so I did it. I set my phone and recorded Luke, and I having sex, and the angle I placed my phone had been clear enough to view the size of his male genitals, especially when he removed his trousers and when he slid into me, and when we were done, and I was sure Luke was asleep. I picked my phone and sent the recording to our group chat, and I had even playfully tagged it my fiancé's small size. My friends laughed so hard and we kept talking, and I compared it to Mike's, and I told them how sore I was always, regardless of the fact that we had slept together numerous times already. We spoke until the wee hours of that morning, and I slept off, still chatting with my friends. When I woke up the next morning, Luke was nowhere in the house, and I tried his number, but it was just disconnected. I was scared he may have seen the chat because I slept off with my phone unlocked. But when I got to work that day, Luke had come into my office and kissed me fully on the lips. He was smiling and didn't look like someone who had seen all the devious things we wrote about him on the group chat, so I relaxed, thinking I was safe. I decided to delete the messages just to be on a safer side, but for some reason, I kept forgetting to do that. It was either when I went through the chat again and saw that video, I was giving myself valid reasons why I shouldn't feel guilty doing what I was doing. Why I should try and seek sexual satisfaction outside because of how frustrating it was having sex with Luke. After the month that I had pushed the wedding off from, we started planning our wedding with lots of help from my mom and Luke's mom. They were the ones picking up everything we needed, and they only just literally brought me along. I had no say on the designs or colors of anything, and I didn't mind it though. I hadn't exactly planned any wedding before, so I just allowed them to do what they wanted. It also gave me time to bond with both of them, especially Luke's mom, who is the warmest person I've ever come across. Luke, too, was happy to go with what they wanted. He only wanted to be married to me as soon as possible so we can start a family according to him. Although what Luke didn't know was that I never wanted kids. I have never really liked the idea of being swollen with a child on my inside, and also having weird cravings and becoming so bloated. I hated it, but I knew how family-oriented Luke is, and I didn't want to lose him. So when he spoke about kids, I lied about adoring them and wanting to have more than one. Luke said he wanted 4, and eventually we came to a compromise of having just 2. My intentions were truly marrying him and paying a surrogate mother to carry our babies, but I didn't tell him that. And my friends too supported my decision of having a surrogate mother on board instead of being less fit. The wedding preparations went on, and then 2 weeks before our wedding, something rather weird and awful had happened. I had been careless, and Luke must have seen the whole thing then. I was at Luke's place. We were discussing where we would live, and I was planning on selling my apartment and giving him the money so we could buy a bigger apartment, but Luke refused, and we were still arguing about it, although jokingly. And then Luke's mom had sent me some decorations to pick from for the hall we were using, and I was showing them to Luke on my phone. But I got up while he was still viewing it because I was preparing myself a snack, and when the microwave had made a beeping sound, I went into the kitchen to remove the snack and plate it. I also went in search of wine and glass cups to drink with it, even though it was barely evening. I wasn't planning on driving back home that evening anyways, and I had planned to sleep over at Luke's place. My phone must have beeped with a message from Mike. He was asking me if we were still meeting that night. When I got back into the living room, Luke had put down my phone and was on his, and I was scared to ask if he saw the message from Mike. He said nothing about it, took the wine glass I offered him, and even clinged his glass with mine, so I thought he hadn't seen it, and I stupidly relaxed. Luke must have seen it, though, and he had kept quiet about it, not to alarm me. Because while I slept, Luke had used my finger to unlock my phone and had gone through my chat with Mike, and also that particular group message between the girls and I. I remember waking up the next morning alone in bed and seeing my phone in pieces. I was so shocked. It was on the floor on my side of the bed, and I thought I must have accidentally flung it while sleeping. I did my usual routine, had my bath, and prepared for work. But on my way to work, I went to a phone stall and got myself another phone. When I got it and was able to set it up, I texted Luke to tell him I got a new phone and would be at work soon with love emojis, but I got no response from Luke, which was weird. Luke never ignored my messages, so I assumed he was busy, even though I would have known that because he worked for me. When I got to work, the atmosphere was different. Everyone was looking at me like I had grown an extra horn overnight. I knew I did my makeup properly because I took my time with it that morning, and I knew I wasn't dressed oddly because I wore the dress that Luke had got me as a gift on my last birthday, and I've gotten lots of compliments wearing that dress before. I couldn't understand what was wrong, so I just tried to ignore the stares and the whispers as I walked past into my office. I had not even had a seat when I got a message from the board of directors that I was on probation. I was confused when I went in search of Luke, who wasn't still replying to my texts even after I texted him about the probation. I saw him sitting in his office chair working like everything was normal. When I called him, he briefly looked up and concentrated back on what he was doing. I didn't understand what the cold shoulder was for. We were very cool the night before, and I couldn't understand the sudden change. But it all dawned on me when I walked back to my office and decided to stop by the bathroom, which was located at the back from the main staff office. Then I saw it. I saw those screenshots. Luke had snapped it with his phone and then printed them out and had put it up on the notification board. I was shocked to see them. Everything I said, joking about his small size and comparing him to Mike. When I had told the girls about my decision to pay Mike to sleep with me after the wedding because I couldn't remain sexually frustrated all my life stuck in a marriage. Everything I had said was right there on that board. I shakily tore it down, but when I looked back and saw people staring at me in disgust, I realized they must have all seen it. They had all seen it, and now what they thought of me was obvious on their faces. The disgust I read there was enough to have me turning on my heels and running back home to hide. I texted my friends, but none of them replied, and I tried calling, but both of them must have blocked me. I didn't know what to do, and I was so scared. I texted Luke again and begged him for a chance to explain myself, but he wouldn't reply. When I went to his house in the evening, just to beg for forgiveness, even though I knew I didn't deserve any, Luke didn't allow me in, and he told me he didn't need my explanations. He told me that our wedding was off, and also told me that our parents were probably receiving the mail he sent them, with those screenshots in it as we spoke. It was like I was drenched in cold water. My very conservative parents found out that I was having sex, and not only that, but sleeping with another guy, and not only doing that, but also discussing it and comparing the two men together. I was shocked by the cruelty that Luke had portrayed, and I tried begging him again, but Luke just looked at me with disgust and had slammed his door on me. I cried so hard that night in my room, regretting everything that I've ever done, and as if that wasn't enough. When I went to visit Bella and Rose the next day, knowing they would be home, wanting some sort of comfort from my so-called friends, I found the supposed brother and sister having sex on the couch. Bella wasn't even sorry about it when I caught them in that position. She told me then that Mike was never her brother. He was apparently her boyfriend, and that he was only a means of teaching me a lesson for lying to them about Luke, and for always getting the good things amongst us all. I tried calling Rose to ask if she knew, And when she finally picked the call after ringing her for more than 10 times, she had just shown indifference when I asked her, saying the same things Bella had said. I was so shocked and disappointed, not at them but myself for realizing the truth so late. I couldn't believe I allowed them to ruin my life because I trusted them that much. My mom had called later that day, and knowing they had probably received that mail from Luke, I was too scared to pick up. But she sent a short text afterwards. Don't show up here again, and that was all. She didn't call or text me anymore, and when I mustered the courage to call her, she had disconnected it almost immediately when she heard my voice. It had been the same for my siblings too, and they were refusing to have anything to do with me. I must have left 1,001 messages on Luke's phone by now, but not one single one had gotten a reply. I've tried so hard to get Luke to forgive me, but every attempt I make to reach out to him was all blocked. Guys, it's a week to our wedding. I'm supposed to be getting my last fitting today at the wedding dress shop. I'm supposed to be on a strict diet so I didn't gain any more weight to be able to fit in my dress. I should have gone to pick up my wedding bouquet and chosen the final design I wanted for my cake, but none of that is happening. No one is calling or asking if the wedding is still holding, and they all know just how awfully I have behaved, and now want nothing to do with me. I feel like I've become so suddenly abandoned with nothing and no one to fall back on, not my family, not my so-called friends, and regrettably, not even Luke. Guys, I really need to get back with Luke. I regret all of my actions, and I swear I would do anything, just about anything, to get back in Luke's good book. Losing Luke amongst everything else equals losing my very essence. Please, guys, you have to help me. I really need to get Luke to forgive me somehow, and in some way, please. I love him, and I feel terrible for doing the things I did. What should I do, guys? Update. Hello, Reddits. It's been barely a month, and it's almost like I've been hooked on different shocking machines attached to my heart. Whenever I feel like my heart cannot take this particular hit, another one comes up and becomes even more shocking than the last one had been. A month has passed since Luke had found out about my indiscretion and my audacity to brag about it with my friends, and it's been total hell being like this. I've had a lot of hate comments from people that looked up to me before, and now they all think of me as a useless and worthless woman with no self-respect. You know, my honeymoon was supposed to end yesterday, and I was supposed to come back into town with Luke as my husband, ready to start our lives together. I'm supposed to be happily married right now, with maybe even an expectation of a baby on the way. We would have sold my apartment by now, and perhaps already be living in the new apartment Luke had intended to buy us so we could start our family. But that can't happen now again, because I ruined every chance of that happening. I stabbed Luke in the back because I was stupid and ignorant, and I should have listened to Luke when he kept warning me about my choice of friends. I should have listened to my mom when she kept insisting she had negative feelings about them, and I shouldn't have been so ignorant thinking I knew best. Turns out I didn't know them at all, and all they ever did was set me up for failure, and I trusted them enough to have fallen prey. But I cannot even fault them. It was me who was crazy enough to believe that they were good friends when they never hid their true intentions right from the beginning. I slept with Mike, that coward. They must have laughed behind my back when I finally fell prey, and they might have even celebrated my stupidity. There's nothing more that I regret more than knowing them, and they've ruined my life. No, I did the ruining by trusting them. I should have known better. I should have loved Luke openly just like he had done with me, and I should never have tried to please my friends and choose them repeatedly over Luke. I should have never cheated on him with Mike because Mike was never worth it. He was never half the man that Luke had been. Yes, he was good sexually, but at the expense of my whole life. Now my life is basically a joke. To everyone, and even to you guys. When I first came here on this app to explain exactly what I had done wrong and the reason why I had done it, I may have expected some negative reactions, but it certainly wasn't to this extent. The next day after I put up my post here, and I had come back to see whether or not somebody might have understood me, and perhaps understood the reasons I felt I needed to do those horrid things, for however ridiculous that they were, I was shocked when I saw the horrible words you guys used in describing me. The extent at which you guys had gone just to make me realize just how delusional I was, thinking that I could somehow get the remedy that I seeked here. Your backlash and comments have done nothing but worsen my mental state and leave it even more damaged than it already is. I cannot stop thinking about that day that I had seen those printed screenshots on the office notification board, and I imagine how horrible it must have been for Luke reading those chats. He trusted me, and yet I broke that trust. Over and over again because I was stupid. Too stupid to see the damage I was causing not only to my relationship, but to every aspect of my life. I've been fired from my workplace too, and they eventually concluded that letting me go was the best way to handle the disgusting rumor in their words. I knew the truth was because our boss was quite conservative too, just like my parents, and had been married for over 40 years now. He would always boast about being faithful to his wife and trusting her completely too. They had met at work too, and the wife only stopped working when she got pregnant with their first child. When he found out about Luke and I, he was quite happy and was always calling us in to advise us on matters concerning our relationship. I wished I had listened to him too when he told me to never trust any other person other than my partner. But here I am, stuck in this endless pit of hell because I was too blind to see what was basically right in front of me. I was too trusting of them, and I had chosen to trust them over Luke. I regret everything so much, and I wish I had a chance to do things over, even though I know how impossible that is presently. Luke is already moving on. He was offered my position at work, and he took it. He's now not only done with me, but also occupying the seat I've worked so hard for years to occupy. I regret ever listening to Bella and Rose. They were the worst set of friends anyone could have ever had, and I know now that if I had a chance to go back and redo something, it would be having any other friends besides Luke. I hope that they rot in a different part of hell just like me right now. It's so painful thinking about the things I could have done better only after losing the chance to do them again. Luke was the best part of my life, and I will never stop regretting and suffering this much for losing him the way I had done. Update. Hello Reddits, it's me again, and this is my last post here on this app. I know how unwelcomed I am here, and you guys have made sure to show me exactly how much you hate me from my previous post, which is why this is my last one here. There's been no one else to talk to, and I've been stuck in my apartment with no one but my mind and brain, which cannot stop remembering all the horrible things I've done as company. It's almost like everyone has moved on except me. I've forgotten about it like I never existed before. My younger sister just got engaged to her boyfriend of 2 years, and I'm the last to find out. And not because she had called to inform me, but because I saw it on her post on Instagram. Everyone's literally ignoring me and moving on with their lives, and it's almost like I'm stuck in a timeless machine in the past with no reason to move on. I'm drowning rapidly in the pool of my own sin with no one to help me. I'm so lonely, it's painful. I never understood what it truly meant for one to be this lonely, but I guess I understand it fully now because I'm exactly that. All I'm stuck with is regrets and memories, remembering everything like it happened yesterday. Remembering that day I had gone to see Luke after he found out, and the way he had looked at me in disgust. It's crazy how easily you can make yourself dispensable with your actions. I have ended up self-destructing in the most horrible way, and it feels painful to watch everything that was my life not be mine anymore. I have no family, no friends, and now more definitely, no Luke. I understand far better now what it means to be lonely. In fact, I'm sure I'm the exact definition of that word. I'm surrounded by silence every day in my apartment, and the only noise around me is the one in my head. And I'm haunted every day in my dreams and in my mind when I'm awake by the horrible things I did to ruin my own life. I keep wishing that I have a second chance to fix things, but I know that's an impossible wish because life doesn't do do-overs, and I'm certainly not the best candidate to be selected for a second chance. I'm sure that whatever God is out there definitely sees me as one of the best candidates for hell instead of a chance to do things over. Although they wouldn't need to bother about that because my life on earth presently is the perfect interpretation of hell on earth. I'm so lonely. I'm going almost insane from having to think about the same things over and over again. It feels so unfair, but yet I know that it isn't because I caused it. I ruined my life and I will forever regret my actions and choices. I know you guys think I'm crazy coming here and talking about how crazy my life has been. But it's just my true feelings, and apparently there's nowhere else I can share it. Not anymore. I've lost that chance, and apparently I have done so forever. I hope you guys learned something from me, though. Thanks and goodbye.